She didn't leave quietly. She didn't leave safely. She left with fear in her chest, bruises on her confidence, and a question that haunted her every step. Will I survive without him? For years, she had been told that love means endurance, that marriage means sacrifice, that silence means strength. But one night, when the walls felt smaller than her dreams, she chose herself. This is not just a story about escaping an abusive marriage. This is the story of a woman who rebuilt her life on her own terms and refused to apologize for it. She once believed love was supposed to hurt, not because anyone explicitly told her so, but because pain had quietly become a routine. It entered her life disguised as concern, as control, as, "I just want what's best for you." At first, it sounded caring, protective, almost romantic. But slowly, very slowly, that concern turned into restrictions. Those restrictions turned into rules, and those rules turned into a prison. She didn't even realize she was living inside. Her marriage didn't begin with violence. It began with promises. Promises of forever, of safety, of a shared future. She remembers the early days clearly, the compliments, the attention, the feeling of being chosen. He told her she was different, that she was lucky, that no one would love her the way he did. She didn't know then that those words were not affection, they were ownership. Over time, her world began to shrink. Friends faded away, not because she didn't love them, but because every meeting came with suspicion. Every phone call came with interrogation. Every laugh came with accusation. "Why are you smiling like that? Who were you talking to? Why do you need them when you have me?" Slowly, she learned the safest answer was silence. The emotional abuse came first. It always does. The constant criticism disguised as jokes. The way he dismissed her opinions. The way he made her doubt her memory, her judgment, her worth. When she cried, he called her dramatic. When she spoke up, he called her ungrateful. When she tried to explain her pain, he reminded her of everything he had done for her, as if kindness could erase cruelty. Then came the fear. Not always physical at first, but loud enough to control her breathing. The way his tone could change the air in the room. The way she learned to read his footsteps, his moods, the tension in his jaw. She became an expert at survival, anticipating, avoiding, adjusting. She stopped asking for things, stopped dreaming out loud, stopped recognizing herself in the mirror. People around her saw a marriage. They didn't see the war. They saw smiles at family gatherings, coordinated outfits, polite conversations. They didn't see her rehearsing answers in her head before speaking. They didn't see her apologizing for things she didn't do. They didn't see her lying awake at night, wondering how a life could feel so heavy while still looking so normal. She told herself it wasn't that bad. She told herself others had it worse. She told herself leaving would be selfish, shameful, dangerous. She told herself staying was strength, that endurance was bravery, that suffering was the price of commitment. These lies kept her trapped longer than any locked door ever could. The first time she thought about leaving, she felt guilty. The second time, she felt scared. The third time, she felt something unfamiliar. Anger. Not explosive anger, but a quiet realization that her life was slipping away while she waited for him to change. And then came the night that changed everything. It wasn't the worst night. That's the part people don't understand. It wasn't the loudest argument or the harshest words. It was the night she caught herself disappearing. She looked at her hands and realized they no longer felt like her own. She looked at her reflection and saw a woman who had survived everything, but was no longer living. That night, she didn't pack dramatically. No speeches, no confrontations. Just a bag with essentials and a heart pounding so loudly she was afraid it would give her away. She walked out not knowing where she would go, how she would survive, or who she would become. But she knew one thing with absolute clarity. Staying would destroy her. Leaving an abusive marriage is not freedom. It's the beginning of another battle. The fear doesn't vanish when the door closes behind you. It follows you, in the form of doubt, in the form of loneliness, in the form of starting over with nothing but resilience and unresolved trauma. She slept on couches, took jobs below her qualifications, counted every dollar. There were days she wanted to go back, not because she loved him, but because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty. Abuse teaches you to distrust yourself, and healing requires you to rebuild that trust from scratch. People asked uncomfortable questions. Why didn't you leave sooner? What did you do to make him angry? Are you sure it was that bad? Each question felt like another wound. She learned quickly that not everyone deserves access to your truth. Some people seek understanding, others seek judgment. There were nights she cried herself to sleep, not because she missed him, but because she missed the woman she used to be. The woman who laughed freely. The woman who spoke without fear. The woman who believed in herself without needing permission. Slowly, painfully, she began to rebuild. Therapy wasn't magical, but it was honest. Healing wasn't linear, but it was real. She learned to name what happened to her: abuse, control, manipulation. Naming it gave her power. It separated her identity from her experience. She started setting boundaries, small ones at first, saying no without explaining, leaving conversations that felt unsafe, trusting discomfort as information, not weakness. Each boundary felt terrifying and empowering. Each one reminded her that her body, her time, her life belonged to her. Financial independence became her next mountain. She learned skills, asked for help, took risks, failed, tried again. Every paycheck felt like proof, not just that she could survive, but that she could choose. Choice is something abuse steals quietly. Reclaiming it felt revolutionary. She decorated her space the way she wanted, ate when she was hungry, slept without fear. These small freedoms felt sacred. No one criticized her music. No one monitored her phone. No one controlled her schedule. Peace became her new definition of success. But healing didn't mean forgetting. Triggers still came. Loud voices, sudden anger, certain phrases. Instead of shaming herself, she learned compassion. Trauma is not a flaw. It's evidence of survival. She stopped asking, "What's wrong with me?" and started asking, "What happened to me?" Over time, her story became her strength. She spoke when she was ready, not to seek validation, but to reclaim her voice. She discovered that her experience wasn't isolated, that countless women were living similar silent battles. And by speaking, she wasn't just healing herself, she was opening doors for others. She no longer measures her worth by endurance. She measures it by self-respect. She no longer believes love requires suffering. She believes love should feel safe. She no longer apologizes for choosing herself. Today, her life looks different. Not perfect, not easy, but authentic. She makes decisions without fear. She dreams without limits. She builds relationships rooted in mutual respect, not control. And most importantly, she trusts herself again. She escaped an abusive marriage, but what she really did was reclaim her life, on her own terms, without permission, without apology. And if you're listening to this, wondering whether you're strong enough, hear this clearly. You are not weak for staying. You are not broken for struggling, and you are not selfish for leaving. Bravery doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "This isn't the life I deserve." And sometimes that whisper is powerful enough to change everything.